Yeah, that is way better without the light above.
You're live. Just going.
Cool.
I have the buttons up here now.
Okay, go for it. Good. All right, hello Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Today, we're going to talk about gardening. We're at Hulsebus Rockford Chiropractic, and I'm Dr. Josh Berman. So we're going to go through some biomechanic basics when we're talking about gardening, and we're also going to go through, I'm going to give you a couple tips as we go, and some things to look for so you know when you might need to come in and visit with us. And then we'll give a little brief intro into what we'll do here in 2 weeks. So first thing we want to go over is hip hinging. Now, we do a lot of hip hinging when we garden. We do them in a couple different positions, so I'll go over both of them for you. So the first hip hinge is when you have to dig out some old plants or you're making some space for new ones. Now, hip hinging is just this motion right here. So we're doing the hip hinge to avoid rounding the back too much. Okay, so hip hinging puts ourselves in a really good position. We can do a lot more powerful things if we have to break the dirt, but also it protects our low back. Okay, when we hip hinge, we maintain that lumbar curve and we don't lose it like we do when we flex forward. So with the shoveling, we're standing, we're hip hinging this way, and then you're either making the hole or scooping stuff out or whatever you're doing with the shovel. Okay, now the other position for the hip hinge is when we have the flat flower bed, so you're even with the ground. We'll go into either a half kneeling or a full kneeling position, and we still hip hinge. So just because you're on your knees, it doesn't mean you have to bend over like this. You can sit back and hinge so we can get into the dirt this way. Okay? Now, another way to make the hip hinge a little bit easier is to use elevated flower boxes, okay? So let's say you don't want to get on your knees. Let's say you have painful knees, but you don't want to bend all the way over like I would if I had to go all the way to the ground with the trowel, okay? An elevated box allows me to hip hinge at a shorter distance and take on less pressure on that low back, okay? Now, the second thing we're going to go over is the side bend. So everybody knows what this is. If you didn't clean up very well in the fall, or your neighbors didn't clean up very well in the fall, we have to side bend in order to rake. So when we're raking and side bending, really we can't avoid this motion. We have to side bend. So in order to mitigate the pressure we get on one side of our back, we're going to switch sides and we're going to side bend the other way. Okay, this goes into some of the other tips. So tip number 1, warm up and drink lots of water. I know it seems like 2, but that's just a general idea. So for warming up, just warm up with a few hip hinges. So all you have to do is put your hands on your hips like this, bend back a little bit. If you want to add a little bit of challenge, let your arms go out in front of you and hold that position. When you feel anything except right here getting tight or warm, go ahead and stand up, come out of it. Do that a couple times to get your body ready to hip hinge, okay? The side bending is really tough to warm up for, so what I like to do is get into the hip hinge, put my hands across my chest, and either bend to the side or rotate to the side to kind of warm up those joints that are in the low back, okay? We already mentioned gardening high. But, that, again, just to reiterate, building up your flower boxes is going to take a great load of stress off that low back. Tip number 3 is change tasks, okay? So we talked about switching directions when you rake. Really, you just want to rake for a few minutes, then maybe go back to your flower pots. Don't stay in the same task for a really long time because then you're going to get stressed out in those areas and your body's not going to be able to adapt. Okay. Along with changing tasks, take breaks. Don't stay in the garden all day long, or at least not all in one shot. I know the weather's getting really nice and it's hard to go back inside, but you really need to in between tasks. So about every hour, take a 10-minute break, 15-minute break, go grab something to drink and, take a load off for just a few minutes. Okay. The other thing, make sure you get in and stay adjusted with your chiropractor. All these increased tasks after a winter of not doing them is going to, it's going to make your body adapt to things that it wasn't adapting to for the last 3, 4, 5 months, however long it's been. So just make sure you come in on a regular basis and get checked. Now, if you're finding pain or discomfort or a lack of a range of motion when you're doing hip hinge activities or side bending activities, that's a great time to come in and get adjusted. Now, one last thing that people don't think about is the cervical spine position. So when we're hip hinging and when we're focused on a task, we sometimes forget that maybe we shouldn't lean forward so much with our neck. Okay, so make sure you kind of keep that chin tucked. I have to remind myself every couple of minutes, keep that chin tucked, and then go into the task. Okay, now if you notice your neck getting sore, that's probably because you're just letting it go forward a little bit. So just remind yourself every couple of minutes to check that chin posture. Okay, I think that's all for gardening. So in 2 weeks, on May 3rd, join us again on live around noon. Dr. Hayes is going to go over his morning routine and just some tips for you and your family as far as getting up and getting ready for the day. It's going to help you get awake better and get moving so the motions throughout the day aren't so stressful. So again, thanks a lot. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We'll see you in 2 weeks.